Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the Sandeman Street podcast, a podcast about Dundee and Dundee United from fans of both clubs. I'm Andrew, and as usual I'm joined by my regular co-host Jack. Jack, how are you this week?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I've had a very good weekend.
Yeah, you have.
As we'll go into. Liverpool won, the 49ers won with the last kick of the ball. Even got a win in a certain challenge, but more of that later. As usual, follow our socials. If you're listening on YouTube, could you please like this video and subscribe to the channel? If you could also hype this video, if you know how to do that, that would be great. Our Twitter is at SandemanSTPod. That is at SandemanSTPod. And on Instagram, we are at the Sandeman Street Pod. So if you could give us a follow on them, like our videos, retweet our posts when we make them, that would be great. It would be really appreciated. It helps grow our podcast, helps more people find us. So yeah, that would be great. But Jack, only one place to start this week is United didn't have a game, and that was at Dens, where Dundee had probably their game of the season so far. Finally got off the mark, a 3-2 win at home to Livingston, but it wasn't short of drama. From the highlights, what was your take?
I thought Dundee's goals they scored were actually really well done. Both of them getting behind the defence and playing the ball right into that danger area just in front of the goalkeeper. And they've done well for both the goals. Congreve does really well to get past the defender for the first. So I think the two goals they scored, they've done well with both. Defensively, I think they were a couple of lapses in concentration which led to Livy's goal. Somehow, I don't know how, you've managed to stop the ball going in the back of the net near the end and turned that into a penalty. I think if the Livy striker hits it anywhere else but the centre, it goes in. Fortunately, it never. Dundee managed to go up the other end and eventually get the winning goal.
I think it's a bad miss from the Livy striker, in my opinion. As you say, he hits it anywhere other than where he hits it and it's in. And he's, 6 or 7 yards out? I mean, he's feeling a wee bit of pressure from Luke Graham, but really, he should be scoring that. I mean, it's a bad miss in my opinion. As you said, with Dundee's goals, Cam Congreve for the first two, absolutely brilliant wing play, beats his man, low ball across the face of the goal, striker taps in. I don't know if you really concentrated on the movement, especially for the first goal. Simon Murray's movement is excellent. Feints one way, goes round the back post tap in. Joe Wesley gets off the mark as well. Brilliant, excellent finish from a similar. Basically, the two goals were carbon copies of each other, and then obviously the penalty, which we'll speak about soon. The defending, a bit reminiscent of Tony Docherty era, going 2-0 up and chucking it. It will obviously go on to speak about the decisions from the referee later on, but the first goal, it's one of them. It's similar to our goals, really. The full-back puts a low ball across the goal. Clark Robertson should really deal with it better, but it's just one of those things. And then the second goal, obviously from the penalty spot. Cam Congreve, though, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are about wingers, but an old-school winger is what he really is. Gets on the ball, wants to make things happen. I take it you enjoyed, well, not enjoyed as a United supporter, but enjoyed watching him as a winger, really, from what you've seen.
Yeah, I like a winger that takes a boy on, and he seemed to do that. He seems like he can be a handful. I don't think he was up to much in the derby, but from what I've seen anyway. But for that game, yeah, he done really well with both assists. Likes to he take on the defender well, and like you say, he's cut a front face of goal, and he's done really well with both the goals.
Yeah, he certainly came, I say come of age, probably a bit too dramatic, but he certainly came grown into his Dundee shirt in the past couple of games. Obviously coming on at half time at home to Motherwell last weekend, puts in a good performance, assists the equaliser, assists 2 goals on Saturday. I think one of Dundee's major issues at the moment is that you've obviously got him, you've got Yagan, the other creative players along with Danda, who's obviously suspended at the moment, but the fall off when they go off as subs is quite big. You notice that when they were Simon Murray's subbed off, Congreve subbed off, Ugan subbed off. The other than Charlie Riley, who won the penalty, the fall off from them is quite large in terms of creativity. The players that are coming on are obviously different types of players and decent players in their own right, but what they're replacing when they're coming on is there's a big gap in that, in my opinion. I've seen a lot of people criticising Stephen Presley for making those subbies when he did. I disagree with that because, especially Congreve, he's never played 90 minutes since he's come up here. I would imagine his last 90 minutes in a competitive match was probably last season for Bromley. I don't think he's played 90 minutes for Swansea this season, so you have to take that into consideration. He's obviously still finding his way to full fitness, match fitness as well. Simon Murray's 2 or 3 games after coming back from an injury. Tony Ugan hasn't probably played 90 minutes for a long time either, so it'll come. I'm definitely a lot more encouraged in the past few weeks. I noticed that we had the first game of the season against Hibs where it was all doom and gloom. There wasn't much to be optimistic about. That was followed up by a really good point at Ibrox, a good performance away at Kilmarnock, and then the derby kind of brought us back down to earth a bit. But since then, they've had 2 good results. As I said before, the last podcast, I think it was, if you'd offered me 4 points from those 2 games, Motherwell and Livingston at Dens, I would have took that. I would obviously have preferred 6, but I'm not going to be greedy. 6 points is a good return from those 2 fixtures, especially because Motherwell are like the new Real Madrid, aren't they? So it's good points. 4 points at home over those 2 fixtures is a good return, and going into 2 tricky away games now. But yeah, certainly a lot to be optimistic about compared to what we've had throughout the summer.
Yeah, you do seem to be a bit more defensively sound. Obviously, you're making some mistakes. You seem to be making at least one mistake a game defensively, which lead to a goal. But you are definitely stronger in defence than you were last year under Tony Docherty. As for going forward, you're still getting goals. You're going to get goals with Simon Murray up front, so I don't think you've got nothing to worry about there. And you're right in saying that your results recently have been pretty good outside of the derby. A draw against Rangers, okay, they've not been great this season so far. It is still a really good result. And to get a win against Livy, known to be a physical side, Motherwell, like you say, prime Real Madrid or Barcelona, to get a point off them is good. And Kelly are a tough team as well, so to get points off all them is pretty good going.
Yeah, I mean, Stephen Presley's said it quite a few times in interviews recently where everyone has us relegated already, the media, etc. You know, I was thinking about at the match on Saturday, I was thinking about when we done our league predictions. I don't think you were on the podcast on that day. I think it was when Reece did it, and we did our 1 to 12 league predictions. And I had thought for quite some time in the lead up to that, I'm going to put Falkirk last and Dundee 11th. And at the very last minute, I bottled it and I put Livingston last and Dundee 11th and Falkirk 10th, I think. And I said it on the podcast, I said that I bottled it. And the more the season develops, the more I think what a stupid thing that was, because although I don't think Livingston are particularly great, I think, 1, they've got a good manager, and 2, they'll be far more streetwise than Falkirk, I reckon.
Yeah, with a guy like David Martindale in charge, your team is going to be a bit more streetwise. He can set up teams to get the points they need to, typically. Like you say, he's a very good manager. I highly rate him. So yeah, Livy, I think, maybe not safe. They could still finish 11th. But I think Falkirk, so far off the basis of things, outside of Aberdeen, who have been absolutely honking, I think Falkirk could be the prime candidates to go down.
What I based my thoughts on before the ball had been kicked in the league this season was purely because of they've come up two back-to-back promotions, which is obviously a very good achievement. But a lot of the players they have are still players they had in League One. Now, they've earned the right to be where they are, so it's not really, I'm not wanting to be too harsh on that, but what I mean by that is it is a big jump. I think we've all kind of recognised that League One to the Premier League in Scotland is a big jump, and although they play pretty football, they've got two or three individually talented players who make things happen. I just think over the course of a season in the SPL, it's a grind. It is a grind, and I think Dundee, Livingston, Killie, these sort of teams that'll be probably in and around that area of the league table this season are more equipped and more streetwise to deal with that. I'm not saying for a second that I don't think Dundee could finish bottom. As a Dundee supporter, I know more than anyone that could happen. But as this Dundee team's developing, I honestly do think that there's more to come from them yet, and I think they'll grow into the season. Obviously, they've got January transfer window where they can maybe add to what they've got, and I just think that they'll probably be, over the course of 38 games, more streetwise than Falkirk in particular. And if we can finish 11th, then I'd back them to be any championship team.
Yeah, I think depending who you get in the championship, it could be difficult. I feel like Dunfermline are playing some somewhat decent football just now, and there's another couple of teams down there that are throwing the money about. But I think, all in all, I think Dundee should really beat any team in the championship. So if you do get 11th, I don't see any reason why you couldn't stay up. Falkirk, John McGlynn, the manager, he's obviously been here before. He was in the Prem with Hearts before, and he's done well to get them back-to-back promotions. But like you say, it is a big step up. I thought at the start of the season, the contingency from having the same players in the season throughout the seasons would benefit them in somewhat, because there was be more team chemistry there. The players would know each other more than other clubs. But so far, the results really aren't going their way, and I think they really need to start picking up results soon to stand the chance of not finishing last.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously early days. What, five, 6 league games into the season, so it's early days for Falkirk. I mean, they could prove us both wrong, but from the basis of what I've seen and from the basis of what you're saying, I think it's going to be a long season for them. I think it's going to be a long season for us. I think it's going to be a long season for Livy. I think it's going to be a long season for Killie. I think as I've said a few times now, though, I just think that Dundee, Livy, Killie might just have a bit more than Falkirk, but I mean, they've got the arse of turf, so you never know. What we'll do is, before we cover the rest of the Dundee, the decisions in the Dundee game, we'll go over quickly the League and League Cup results from the weekend. So on Friday, Kilmarnock and St Mirren played out a 2-2 draw, with St Mirren winning 5-3 on penalties. On Saturday, there was Dundee against Livingston in the league, which obviously finished 3-2 to Dundee. 2 League Cup quarter-finals, Aberdeen 0, Motherwell 1. Now, Aberdeen obviously at Tannadice tomorrow night. I don't even think they've scored in the league yet. I think they've scored against Morton, and they've scored in Europe. So they're there for the taking tomorrow, do you think?
Yeah, mate, I think this is the best time to possibly play them. Their heads are clearly down. Like you say, they've not scored a goal this season in the league, which is really poor considering the money they've spent on their team. So I think United have got a really, really good chance of getting a result there.
Well, you'd have to think so. United off the back of having a week's rest. Aberdeen have obviously played a few games in that period as well. You've got to fancy United, especially at home. The other game from the League Cup on Saturday was Ibrox Rangers winning 2-0 against Hibs. So that'll obviously buy Russell Martin some time. And yesterday on Sunday, the result was Partick Thistle 0, Celtic 4. Now, one thing I did notice, I've seen bits and pieces of that game yesterday. One thing I did notice was the boy Colby Donovan, who has been linked with Dundee throughout the summer. played for Celtic, and at the end of the match when they were clapping their fans, Brendan Rodgers pushed them towards the fans for them to do the victory dance. So all I can say is roll on Alistair Johnson and Ralston being fit for us to maybe have a chance of getting them in January. And obviously the draw was made after the match. Celtic drawing Rangers in the Old Firm and Motherwell have drawn St Mirren. I did notice an article about that says that there's going to be 1,000 empty seats at the Rangers versus Celtic game at Hampden, which I think is something to do with this new SFA stroke SPFL kind of punishment scheme where with flares and pitch invasions and all sorts, rather than fining clubs, I think they might fine them as well, but I think rather than just fining a club, they're taking like 200 seats off your next allocation when you next play at Hampden.
All right, okay.
So there's going to be 1,000, so it must be Celtic have got 500 and Rangers have got 500 or whatever. So on the Sun it says Rangers and Celtic were both given suspended sanction of a reduction of 800 tickets for a future Premier Sports match on top of their immediate 500 strong deduction. Yeah, so 500 per team. So, interesting. What do you reckon? Who do you think will be playing in that final then?
I mean, going off the basis of the performances so far, I think Celtic probably have the edge over Rangers. Rangers, like I say, have been really poor this season so far. Got a good result against Hibs in the quarters. But I think Celtic will probably have too much for them. Celtic themselves haven't been fantastic, but I still think, all in all, they should have a better team than Rangers do. As for the other leg, I'm going to go St Mirren. I think your favourite man, Stephen Robertson's a very good coach. He'll have them well drilled. And I just see them being quite difficult to beat. As you're saying, the media are saying that Motherwell are playing like prime Barcelona. But I just think that style maybe doesn't win out against St Mirren. They're quite a dogged team and difficult to break down. So, yeah, I'll make it a St Mirren Celtic final.
I'd have to agree, although Rangers seem to have Celtic's number at the moment. So I think that obviously most Old Firm games are quite tight affairs, quite edgy affairs, but I think Celtic might go through, and then I agree that I think St Mirren will beat Real Madrid in the other final. It's quite hard to believe that. You wouldn't have thought a few years ago that St Mirren would beat Real Madrid, but there we go.
Motherwell done that.
Back to Saturday's action, we'll have our second instalment of Ref Watch. Now, I did have a nosy through the 4 League Cup ties and I couldn't really see anything glaringly obvious or any sort of massive controversy surrounding any of them in regards to refereeing decisions. There was one I noticed from the Killie St Mirren game where I think it was St Mirren had took a free kick and it had hit a Kilmarnock player in the wall on the arm and he'd outstretched his arm and it was a penalty and it wasn't picked up on by the ref. And I think I'm right in saying that St Mirren and Kilmarnock before the match agreed not to have VAR.
All right.
So it wasn't obviously picked up on VAR because VAR wasn't involved. Now, this is my problem when it comes to having VAR and not having VAR. Ironically, we played Kilmarnock a couple of years ago in the Scottish Cup, the first round that you enter as a Premier League team, and both clubs agreed to not having VAR. And I remember we were all speaking about it in either the bus through to Kilmarnock or in the pub before the match. And everyone's absolutely buzzing. And I says, mark my words, there will be something that happens that if VAR was involved, it would have been a beneficiary. What happens? Kilmarnock go 2-0 up within 6 or 7 minutes. think they went 1-0 up after about 40 seconds or something, and after 5 minutes they were 2-0 up. Dundee got a goal back quite quickly after Kilmarnock's second goal from Luke McCowan, and it was flagged as offside. Replay show onside. So be careful what you wish for, is all I say when all you do is moan about VAR. I understand that it's not perfect, but all in all, I think it's a good thing to have involved. But going back to Ref Watch, we'll start off with Livingston's penalty that they got. Now, I've obviously asked you to have a look at these. What do you reckon? Because there's not been nearly as much, I wouldn't use the word controversy, but nearly as much chat about Livingston's penalty as there is about the Dundee one. But what do you reckon?
I think so. I was talking about Livy's penalty. Sorry.
Yeah, the one that Livy got where Clark Robertson
Yeah.
was judged to have fouled the boy in the box. Yeah.
Yeah. So that penalty, I think it's a penalty. I feel like Clark Robertson completely misses the ball almost, and he hits the Livy defender. I think the Livy defender maybe touches the ball through his legs. From the angle I've seen anyway, I've slowed it down, and it doesn't look like there's much contact with the ball, if any at all, by Robertson. So I think it's a penalty.
Okay. Now I sit in the South Enclosure at Dens, and I was pretty much bang in line with that. Now, obviously, at the time, you see something that happens in a split second, and you didn't get a replay from the angle that you're seeing with your own eyesight, as you do with the angles that you're seeing on the TV, on the highlights after the match. But see, when I seen it in real time, I thought it was just two boys going for a 50-50.
Mm.
So I actually don't think that was a penalty. Now, from watching it on the highlights, I can understand why the referee gave it, and people around me at the match thought it was stone water. So I might just be seeing things, but at the time I was baffled. I thought, just two boys going for a 50-50. And the ball's like bobbled out from the tackle, and both of them went down, I think, because one lost their footing and one went down from the tackle. But I've watched it quite a few times from 2 or 3 different angles that you could get on highlights packages that I've seen. And I'm just so indecisive about it. Sometimes I think, yeah, it's a penalty. Sometimes when I watch it, I think it's not a penalty. So it's one of the ones. I think either way, you're going to get people who are disagreeing with it, aren't you? It's a hard one, especially for the ref to give off based on the on-field decision.
Yeah, I think it's one of these calls where if the referee gives it and it goes to VAR, there's not enough to overturn it. If he doesn't give it and it goes to VAR, there's not enough to give it. Like you say, from your angle, you might have seen a 50-50, clean 50-50, but I only managed to see one angle from on the highlights with VAR, and he maybe gets a touch of the ball, like I say, but from what I see, it's almost all player he gets, and so I think the penalty's the right call.
Yeah, I mean the angles that you see on the TV, admittedly, don't support very well what I said earlier. But I just think at the time I thought it's just two boys going for the same ball. And the ball sprung clear, but I could understand why the referee's given it based on other angles I've seen. But we'll move on to what was probably deemed the more contentious and more controversial decision, and that was the penalty that Dundee got. Charlie Riley being brought down or Charlie Riley being deemed to have been fouled by Danny Wilson. What was your take on that one?
At first, I seen it and I'm like, oh, that's a dive. He's just went down, and then I seen an angle of the highlights, and I'm like, it kind of looks like a dive still. But then I seen a highlight on Livy's YouTube channel, and there's clear contact. Charlie Riley plays it really well, and he sticks his leg out, which he leaves there to get tackled by and wait for contact by Danny Wilson. And as soon as he feels that contact, he goes down. It's a harsh penalty, but there is contact. Riley's clearly looking for it. But once again, I think penalty is the right call.
See, this one is. Oh, I don't want to come across like a hypocrite because if this wasn't anything to do with Dundee, I'd probably be screaming that it's a that. I don't think it's a penalty. It's one of the ones though, right? So listen to what I'm saying here because I want to make. I might sound like I'm being contradictory or whatever to what I'm trying to say, but try and understand what I'm saying when I say what I'm saying. So I don't think it's a penalty, right? Personally, but in the current state of where football is, I thought it was absolute madness that the referee asked the boy to come and have a look at it, right? Because in football at the moment, 100% of the time that is a penalty. Now, Danny Wilson doesn't help his cause. Danny Wilson, by the way, is the person who's deemed to have fouled Charlie Riley. He doesn't complain about it. His first reaction is to put his hands and head in his hands. So he's thinking, shit, basically. Okay, he's probably the one to ask the best. But I think if that's given that's given by every single ref in the Premier League in Scotland, right? And I cannot believe he was sent to the screen to look at it back. I just cannot believe it in the current state of where football is. Based on my opinion is that Charlie Riley leaves his foot in, if you know what I mean. Like he puts his foot into Danny Wilson to make it look like he's been tripped. And I've seen somebody on, was it Sky Sports News, I think, saying, or was it a different podcast? Somebody said on whatever I listened to earlier today saying, but Charlie Riley doesn't have to effectively move out the way. He can run into someone if he wants to. I just think that that's such a stupid thing to say. Like, if I'm standing in front of you still, and you're running towards me, and I don't make any movement, and you run right into me, that's not a foul.
Yeah.
Like, Charlie Riley's instigated that contact by leaving his foot in to look like he's been tripped up. But going back to what I was saying earlier, I don't think it's I see everybody seems to be thinking it's a stone water. Now I'm not complaining because it was 1 Dundee the match. It was a great penalty from Callum Jones as well, by the way. I had to wait a while, but I just don't think it's a penalty.
I see completely where you're coming from. Like I say, he's left his foot in there and there's been contact and he's looked for it. But I just say under the current rules, it's always going to be given as a penalty. And there's nothing we can really change about that just now. It's all upon the powers that be in football that change that rule. And so under today's laws, as you say, every referee in Scotland is given that penalty. And so you've kind of got to say it's a penalty in that case.
I mean, Stephen McLean in the past, 15 years that he's been refereeing in Scotland in the top levels, we've been having him as a ref, has grown a bit of a reputation for wanting to fuck Dundee over. And he was on VAR, funnily enough. And you know what? All credit to the referee for going over to the monitor and having the balls about him to go, nah, I'm going to stick with that decision. Because if Stephen McLean was on that pitch, he'd have given that penalty. And every other referee in that position would have. I couldn't believe it when I was watching the highlights back and he got sent to that monitor. Couldn't believe it. As much as I don't think it's a penalty personally, but I'm coming from a position where, like, I don't know the laws of the game. Like, I'm not being told what to give and what not to give by refereeing, like, supervisors. So I'm coming from a different point of view, whereas I guarantee you Willie Collum will be showing that to his referees in meetings during the week and saying, that's a penalty. And when they come out and do this VAR review thing, I guarantee he'll say it's a penalty. So Who's wrong? Am I wrong or are the refs wrong?
Well, you probably.
Probably, yeah. Anyway, that's a good one. That didn't take as long as last week, so hopefully this weekend we'll not have to have any ref watch for next week's podcast. But we'll move on. Last week, obviously, we covered United's game tomorrow night against Aberdeen. So we'll not touch on that. We'll go straight to the weekend's fixtures. United are at home to Kilmarnock on Saturday. What you thinking for that one?
Killie are a team that United really struggle to beat. United haven't beat Killie since November the 9th, 2022. We've played them 7 times, drew twice, lost 5 of them. We've lost them already this season in the Scottish Cup, or the League Cup, whatever one it was. We just struggle to beat Killie. I don't know what it is about them, but we don't have any luck against them. They've got a couple of good boys, good players. They've got David Watson, who I really like. I think he's going to move for big money in the next couple of years. Down south, most likely. They've also got that big Dackers up top. He's like 6'7", 6'8". Absolute unit of a guy. Always going to be difficult to mark someone that tall. I think we're going to be tired after playing Aberdeen. We've only got 4 days break, so it's going to be demanding on the players. Stuart Kettlewell, I think he's an okay manager. He generally tends to do okay as a manager throughout the seasons. Likes to play a bit defensive football, but that's just the way he does it. So I'm not confident on a win at all. I think a draw's maybe a good result for us based on our past few seasons against them. And I wouldn't be surprised at a loss either, to be honest.
I think if United are wanting to get to where they should do with the quality of the squad that they have this season, then you're looking at a game at home, especially at home to Kilmarnock, and thinking we needs to be 3 points. Now I know that for clubs out with Celtic and Rangers, the 10 teams, anybody on their day can beat anyone. So I know that the quality of the league from 3rd down to 12th isn't massive of a difference. There is a difference, but there's not a massive difference like there is from the rest, the Old Firm and the Old Firm are on it. But I think if United are wanting to get to where they want to be, they have to look at that and think, yeah, that's 3 points.
I think a lot of fans will probably be confident with that game. Like you say, where we've been playing so far, or where we want to be, we should be winning these games. But the past record suggests that it's going to be another struggle for us. It always seems like we're able to take the lead and then somehow we throw it away against them. So, like I say, I'm not entirely confident. A win would be I'd be delighted with a win. But I'm not keeping my hopes up completely.
Obviously, United have played Kilmarnock already in the League Cup, as you touched on. It was away from home on their carpet. But I've seen Kilmarnock firsthand. They're nothing special, Jack. Nothing special. And having seen both the teams, I'd back United to win. So you can blame me if they don't win, because I would put them on my accumulator if I was a betting man.
Falkirk don't look anything special either, and we drew against them, so I don't think that counts much.
Like we spoke about, well, particularly what I said, and I'm pretty sure at the time you were in agreement with me. The opening day, the team who win the league and come up and have their flag day on the opening day never tend to lose.
That's true.
They always get a positive result. Now, more often than not, it seems to be a draw, but they never tend to lose the match. And you've seen it with us when we came up a couple of years ago when we drew with Motherwell. You guys came up and drew with us, and then Falkirk came up and they drew with you guys. There seems to be a bit of a pattern. It goes back quite a few years. I'd love to go back and find out when the last time the team who won the league came up and had their opening day of the season and lost.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I guarantee you it's quite a few seasons ago. So I'm having to think about it. Now, last season it was yourselves. The season before it was us. The season before it was Kelly. And I think Kelly actually drew with you guys. The year before it was Hearts, and Hearts beat Celtic, I think. So even then. The year before it was you guys. You won the COVID title. Who did you play opening day? This is going to really show my football knowledge because I'm pretty sure it was St Johnstone, and I didn't think he's lost.
Maybe I'm not entirely sure.
The year before that would have been Ross County,
Yeah,
and I can't remember if they won or not. So yeah,
that's a good 7 years ago.
yeah. So Ross County came up in 2019, and I can't remember if they lost or won. So that's the first one going back that I can't remember. So yeah, I mean at least 5 or 6 years since it's last happened. So I don't think that's really a barometer of where you leave your season.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, having seen both the teams, and especially because United are at home, I think this could be a time of the season where United build up a wee bit of momentum. They're out of Europe now. They've got plenty of rest time. Like obviously, you're saying they're playing tomorrow night and playing on Saturday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is plenty of rest for them to go into Saturday being fresh, unless they pick up a few injuries. I just think that United are the better team, and they'll make home advantage count.
Fingers crossed.
Anyway, moving on to the other game of the weekend, we are away to St Mirren. Now, I'm going through on the bus, and I'll be standing outside the front door of the stadium waiting for my selfie with Stephen Robinson. Now, as I said, I think I touched on this last week, we were 3 games unbeaten against St Mirren last season, took 7 points from a possible 9. I just cannot see that happening this season. I think we've probably regressed since then. I know that I've been a lot more positive in this episode. I think there's more to come from us. I think we're going to slowly but surely get better as the season goes on, and I think we probably will be alright come the end of the season in terms of relegation. But I think on Saturday we're playing a team who have had a settled manager for a few seasons now. They have had quite a settled squad for a few seasons now, and they're a good squad.
Yeah, it's a tough game, mate. St Mirren play some nice football. A hard team to beat as well. As you say, Stephen Robinson's been there a number of years. I don't know who you're going to want to win that game because you'll be gutted if Robinson loses a game or Dundee loses. So I think it'll be a tough one for you. Yeah. Dundee, like you say, have picked up some good results, but St Mirren are a tough challenge.
Away from home, I think it's going to be a tricky game. I mean, we played them there last season. It was one of the backs to the wall games where we had umpteen defenders falling down injured, and it was like I think we had used all our subbies by half time or something like that. It was something mental. Like 2 of our centre halves went off injured at exactly the same time. Simon Murray scored 2 headers and we were barely up the park the entire match and managed to win 2-1. It was a bit of a smash and grab or whatever they say. It was a bit one of them anyway. But yeah, I think it's going to be a tricky one this Saturday. If I was, as I say, if I was a betting man, I certainly wouldn't be putting my money on Dundee this weekend.
No, but you never know. You've got a result against Livy. Maybe you can use that as a bit of momentum to pick up a result there.
Yeah, well, there is that. I mean, if a draw, I would take that in a heartbeat. But we'll move on to the last segment of the podcast as usual, which is the Futbology Challenge. Now, we have a win. Remember last week when I asked the question, who would win first, Dundee or me in the Futbology Challenge? Well, Dundee were the first purely based on dates and a calendar, but I've picked up a win, and I've picked up a win in very difficult circumstances. So let me open my Futbology app. I had 5 games today. 23 years ago, Dundee 0, Celtic 1. Then the game that I had that I'll keep to the end, which was a win. Celtic 2, Dundee 0, which was 13 years ago. 7 years ago, Neil McCann, Dundee 0, Hibs 3. And 4 years ago, Dundee 0, St Johnstone 2. But 16 years ago, Dundee 3, Aberdeen 2. So that is me off the bottom of the league because Jack had a forfeit week again.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. Now, Martin did pick up some points. He had 3 games this week. I was in charge of his random number generator thing to pick the match, and he has come away with a game against Motherwell, which was on the 22nd of September 2013. He had another game which was on the same day in 2012, which was a game against Hearts. I think it was a 3-0 loss, and a game against Dunfermline in 2015, which was a 3-1 win. So a 2-all draw with Motherwell. Let me just run through the details of this match, Jack. You can tell me what you remember about this, which will probably be nothing. An attendance of 5,808, which is a very disappointing crowd for United and their millions of supporters. The starting lineups for each team from United was Radoslaw Czerniak, Sean Dillon, a certain Andy Robertson, don't know what happened to him, John Souttar, Keith Watson, Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Gauld, Paul Payton, John Rankin, Nadir Chifchi and Ryan Dow. For Motherwell, Lee Hollis, Stevie Hamill, Simon Ramsden, Sean Hutchinson, Stephen McManus, Ian Vigurs, Keith Lasley, Stuart Carswell, John Sutton, Zane Francis Angol and Henry Anye. The benches for each team: for United, Mark McCallum, Mark Wilson, Callum Butcher, Darren Petrie, David Goodwillie, Brian Graham and Kudus Oyunga. And for Motherwell, Gunnar Nielsen, Adam Cummins, Fraser Kerr, James McFadden, Paul Lawson, Lionel Ainsworth and Bob McHugh. The scorers were Henry Anye on 30, Chiefchi on 53, Andy Robertson on 57 and Ainsworth on 76. Now, I might be right in saying, Jack, that the Ainsworth goal in this game was a bit of a cracker.
Wouldn't know, mate. Can't remember a thing about that game.
You're going to start going to junior games and get yourself on YouTube and doing some research.
Junior's where it's at.
Anyway, that has lifted Martin on to 6 points, I think. As I've always said, the matches will be on screen as we're speaking about it. I think that does move Martin on to 6 points. It does. I'm on 4 points, and that is because of the match I'm going to give the details of. A League Cup third round tie between Dundee and Aberdeen. The 22nd of September 2009. A 6,131 attendance. The managers of each side were Jockey Scott and Mark McGee. For Dundee, the starting 11: Rob Douglas, Eric Payton, Gary McKenzie, David Cowan, Eddie Malone, Gary Harkins, Maros Klimpel, Brian Kerr, Craig Forsyth, Sean Higgins and Colin McMenamin. For Aberdeen, Jamie Langfield, Jonathan Crawford, Andy Considine, Jerel Eiffel, Charlie Mulgrew, Richard Foster, David Grassi, Mark Kerr, Gary McDonald, Lee Miller and Darren Mackey. The benches: Dundee's bench was Tony Bullock, Chris Casement, Paul McHale, Lee Griffiths and Pat Clark. And Aberdeen's: Stuart Nelson, Derek Young, Chris Maguire, Peter Pollitt and Michael Payton. The goal scorers for Dundee, well, the goal scorers in the match were Eddie Malone 39, Craig Forsyth 55, Michael Payton 63, Michael Payton 88, and in extra time Lee Griffiths 105. So Dundee knocking out Premier League opponents as a First Division team in that game. I remember it very well. And the thing I remember the most was, well, two things I remember. The second goal that Dundee scored from Forsyth, the ball got clipped into the box and it got stuck under, I think it was McMenamin's feet, and he basically ended up rolling the studs along it and behind him. And Craig Forsyth come in behind them completely unmarked in the middle of the box and absolutely rifled it into the above Langfield and into the net. And then the goal in extra time to win it was a long diagonal into the box. Langfield went up for it and challenged with Griffiths, dropped the ball. Griffiths went one way, went the other, and put it round them from the edge of the box into the empty net. And we ended up beating Aberdeen. So, not often that I get to see that as a Dundee supporter. But yeah, that lifts
I'm
me
not
up.
surprised. That team,
What?
that Aberdeen team sounds honking,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
stinking.
Yeah. I mean, you've obviously got Mulgrew. Lee Miller was a decent player. Darren Mackey, if you go through the years, loved the goal against Dundee.
You've also got Mark Kerr and David De Grassi. So.
Gerald Eiffel, whoever he is. But yeah, Dundee had a good first half of that season. Let's not talk about the second. So, as things stand, played 8 for everybody. Martin, 1 win, 3 draws, 4 losses, goal difference of -1 with 6 points. My record is played 8, won 1, drawn 1, lost 6, with a goal difference of -11 and 4 points. And Jack, 0 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses, with a goal difference of -5 and 3 points. So Jack is the last person who will get off the mark with a win. Whether that happens anytime soon, I very much doubt.
Same.
But hopefully next week you'll manage to get some points on the board, because I think that's been quite a few forfeit weeks in a row you've had now, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think
So,
it's ending anytime soon either.
the thing that I've been thinking about is you said a couple of weeks ago that you're obviously going to these junior games because they're local to you. You live just outside Edinburgh. You're going to like quite a lot of Fife junior games at your side of Fife as opposed to our side of Fife. You obviously have your work in Fife, so you've got pals who are there who are going with you and whatnot. And you said that you're trying to do that to build up your games.
Yeah.
How are we going to decide what team you're there to support?
It'll always be the home team. I'm always supporting the home team.
Okay, that's fair enough. If
I mean, it's not going to take effect for another year anyway, so...
Well, if you're declaring that now, next season when we're still recording the podcast and we do next season's Futbology Challenge, I'm happy for that to be the case, if you're declaring that now.
That's fine, I'll declare that now.
Okay, no problem. So, as I say, it's a great week for me personally. Dundee won, Liverpool won the Merseyside Derby, the 49ers won their 3-0 in the NFL. Futbology Challenge. We've got the Ryder Cup this weekend, Jack. Are you interested in that?
I'll not be watching it, but I'll be hoping Europe win it.
What do you think? Do you think that they've got a chance, or do you think it's going to be tough for them over in America?
I honestly don't know too much about it, mate. I just enjoy playing it. I don't know much about the PGA level, so...
I think, based on a lot of American pundits on golf and whatever I've seen, they're quite worried about Europe this year. But I think for Europe to stand a chance, I was speaking to my cousin on Saturday, he thinks that for them to stand a chance, they have to go into Sunday in the lead, especially because it's in America. But you never know. I think Europe have got only one change from last time, and the one last time in Italy, so you never know. Fingers crossed. As I say, this week we have United at home to Aberdeen tomorrow night, Tuesday. That'll obviously have been played by the time this is released, so whatever happens in that game. But at the weekend we've got United at home to Kilmarnock, Dundee away to St Mirren. And then is there any midweek games next week? I don't think there is.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. then there is one last set of fixtures before the international break. So, plenty to cover. Anything you would like to say before we finish?
No, I'm fine.
No? Good. Okay, no problem. As usual, as I said at the beginning and the start of every single episode, if you could follow us on Twitter or X, whatever you prefer, it is at Sandeman ST Pod. That is at Sandeman ST Pod. And on Instagram it is at the Sandeman Street Pod. If you are listening on YouTube, could you like our video, subscribe to our channel, and give our video a hype if you know how to do that. As always, thank you very much for listening. Have a great week, and thanks very much. Bye for now.